Mashiach loved us and gave himself up for us. And
all right, Shalom.
Shalom.
First and foremost, want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us this truth, and Shalom to the hopeful elect. All right, I'm the brother Rock from GMS Dallas, and got the brother Tasha, the blood brother Tasha with me.
Shalom, shalom.
And wanted to go into a quick lesson through the Spirit. All right, and it'll be entitled "Greater Love Have No Man Than This." All right, greater love have no man than this. And this is an excerpt from John 15:13. All right, so we'll go ahead and start there. All right, because really, as usual, the inspiration for all these videos is really the spirit of prophecy. Okay, pursuant to Revelation 19:10. Okay, the spirit of prophecy is the spirit of our Lord. So if in these times today, all right, you coming across, men teaching, right, various camps, things of that nature, all right, primarily GMS, all right, the main thing that really we should be going into is prophecy, all right, and our role within prophecy, what that's going to, make our everyday lives look like, and like we were going into before the camera cut on, the stage is basically being set for the famine of the word. Esau getting ready to come down with great wrath. All right. And we know this, we've been preaching this, we've been teaching it, and we've been using the grace period to get ourselves in order. But did you have anything you wanted to open up with?
Well, I was going to jump to Revelations 19:10 just to push forth more of the point.
Yep.
This is Revelation chapter 19, verse 10. It says, "And I fell at his feet to worship him." It says, "And he said unto me, see thou, see thou, do it not. I am thy fellow servant and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai."
Yep. Talking about the angel that John the Revelator was supping with. But you got it.
It says, "For the testimony of Yahushai, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is the spirit of prophecy." Because Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is coming in the spirit of prophecy. He has seen, this whole thing from the beginning to the end. And now he's showing it unto us through these days.
Yep, that's it.
But you got it.
And I just wanted to touch on this because you gotta look at the reason why prophecy is so important is because prophecy helps you understand the bigger picture. It helps you see outside of your small little narrow view on existence. When you go into prophecy, you understand that there's a bigger picture at work. There's a bigger thing that the Heavenly Father through Yahushua is doing, and He's assembling the elect, and He's purifying us. But as we as the scriptures go into the straight gate, that's the rite of passage. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and get that since I quoted it. I believe it's in Matthew 7. All right, share my screen. This is Matthew chapter 7 and verse 13. It says, "Enter ye in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and there be many which go in thereat." And that's the path that everybody else is going to take. Because like we were talking about as well, Isaiah the 24th chapter, all right, goes into basically, when you get that, it goes into basically the state of the planet Earth and the people, all right, especially here in Babylon the Great. Everybody's through. All right, everybody's through. Everybody is worn the hell out. They're tired. All right, and they're wicked.
And they have nothing to hope for.
And they're carnal, Yep.
Because hope, we are prisoners of hope. All right. We're hoping for the kingdom to come. We're hoping for Yahweh Hashem Yahushai to deliver the woman. All right, and we're hoping to be the woman,
right?
Because we need salvation. We need Yahweh Hashem Yahushai to save us,
right?
Okay.
Yep. So when, like the brother said, with that in mind, we know when things get tough, when shit gets serious out here, real dire. All right, these people are going to accept whatever it is that Esau Edom throws at them. Primarily the MOTB.
Remember when the CVID came out? What would that black woman say? She said, "I'm just going to stick out my arm and accept whatever they gave me."
Exactly.
And that's the sentiment of every nigga woman and every nigga man in America right now. Yep. Even though Esau has a controversy with you and he's seeking your downfall, all right, you're choosing to give yourself over to your enemy. But you got it.
Yep. But like you said, bro, it's because of lack. These people don't have anything. They don't have any hope. They don't have any faith. They don't have anything good to look forward to. And that's the beauty of coming into this truth. All right, you're reminded of the promises, all right, and the comforts, of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Okay, but this is the point of verse 14. It says, "Because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and there be few there be that find it."
Yep.
All right, so there's a broad way, all right, an easy way, which is going to be ultimately to bow the knee,
to
take the C hip, all right, and then there's a path of difficulty, all right, and that path of difficulty is what if you're of the hopeful elect, you've already begun the process of embarking on that path.
Because with that said, we've already started. The elders apostles 30 years ago, they started the trek.
Right.
And as they were moving, they assisted Yahweh Hashem Yahushai in gathering souls.
Yep.
Okay. And now that job isn't for everybody. All right, but it's a pivotal job. It's something that needed to happen. These spiritual epistles that's going through the unicorn right now, aka the internet, is going all over the world. Grabbing members of the elect.
Yep. I got a precept. If you want to speak on it, I'm saying, Baba Kasha. This is Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 20. It says, "And though the Lord give you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, yet shall not thy teachers be removed into a corner anymore, but thine eyes shall see thy teachers."
Your teachers aren't going to be put in a place where you can only hear them. They're not going to be in a far off country. No, you're going to see your teachers openly. Baba Kushat, pull that Sirach chapter 6. I think it's verse 32. Sirach, let me pull it up.
I got it right here. It says Sirach 6 and 32. It says, "My son, if thou wilt, thou shalt be taught. If thou wilt apply thy mind, thou shalt be prudent."
Thou shalt be prudent. You're going to understand these things. Continue on.
Verse 33, it says, "If thou love to hear, thou shalt receive understanding. And if thou bow thine ear, thou shalt be wise."
So you're going to be wise from the things that these men have to say. All right. And it separates you from the society. All right. Because this society is willing to accept anything. It's verse 34. So you can read 33 and 34.
Sirach 6 and 34, it says, "Stand in the multitude of the elders and cleave unto him that is wise."
See, you're going to see your elders. All right. You're going to know who they are. Okay. You're going to see how they walk.
Yep.
All right. And in their walk, you're going to try to mimic what they do. You're going to try to mimic what they do, just like they're trying to mimic what Yahweh Shem Yahushai did. Okay. Everything has its proper order. Okay. And yet, we're not perfect. The men of Yahweh Shem Yahushai aren't perfect, but through the Spirit, we're perfect in all things.
That's why we have a shepherd. When sheep are making that trek, through the wilderness, it ain't really the job. it's the sheep's job to stay in order and to follow the pack, follow the line, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's why I have, a couple of precepts going into that. But like you're saying, we've been given beautiful teachers and beautiful direction. And not only do our teachers teach, but they actually apply and do what they teach, which is the major separator between, the body that we got and everybody else. You got a lot of hypocrites out here, but that's what prophecy is here for. Prophecy is here to weed out, the wheat from the tares, man. Yeah. But I'll finish this out. This is Isaiah 30:20. It says, "And though the Lord give you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, yet shall not thy teachers be removed into a corner anymore, but thine eyes shall see thy teachers, and thine ears shall hear a word behind thee, saying, This is the way, walk ye in it, when ye turn to the right hand and when ye turn to the left." And I just got that backing you up, because you have made that point.
But we were all trying to stay focused,
right,
on the path that's in front of us.
Yep.
And that's looking upon Yahweh Shemiah Shai, because he is our guide. Ultimately, as it says in that 2nd Ezra chapter 16 verse 74. Yahweh Shemiah Shai is our guide.
Yep. This is I'm gonna get this. This is John chapter 10 verse 11, and then I'm gonna read down.
Yeah.
Okay. This is John 10 and 11. It says, "I am the good shepherd," right? Yahweh Shai speaking. It says, "The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep." All right, and that was the example that was set.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, we know we was kings, right? We know, all right, the history, right, of our forefathers and other nations. Yep. All and all that's beautiful. We're gonna get that in the kingdom. But that straight gate that we just mentioned. All right, the scriptures say, before honor comes humility. All right, so there's a certain level of, humbling that we have to go through as a body that's going to basically purify us. All right, and that example was set by Yahweh Shai. All right, but this is verse 12. It says, "But he that is an hireling and not the shepherd, whose own sheep are not, seeth the wolf coming." All right, and the wolf represents Esau. Great wrath coming, persecution coming. It says, "Not seeth the wolf coming, and leaveth the sheep, and fleeth, and the wolf catcheth them, and scattereth the sheep."
And that's a hireling.
Yep.
Yeah, because only a hireling, someone that doesn't have blood in the game, is going to run and leave the sheep unaware.
Yep.
All right.
That's what's going to happen to these other camps.
And if you can pull that John chapter 15 verse 13.
I got that up. Yeah, I got that up. We finish this out first. Okay, come. Nah, you good. I got that one up next. This is John 10 and 13. It says, and if you want to speak on it, you can, bro. It says, "The hireling fleeth because he is an hireling, and careth not for the sheep."
He doesn't care. All right, like the GLCC, one by, because I can name all these camps, okay, and you can tell by their doctrine and what they push. Okay, they don't push the main thing.
Right.
The main thing is Yahweh Shemiah Shai. All right, they don't even want to say his name. They dread saying his name. All right, and to me, that's somebody. If they don't want to pronounce the name of Yahweh Shemiah Shai, they don't need to be teaching. They don't have enough mind to seek out a defense for themselves. Let alone people that are following under them.
Right.
But Salaki, you got
Yep. It's about to get real slimy out here. It's about to get all you niggas that have been not taking this shit serious, thinking this shit is a game. Your favorite Israelite teacher, right, who ain't been teaching the right doctrine. When shit gets tight out here, he ain't gonna be nowhere to be found. He ain't gonna be responding to your messages, your DMs.
He probably ain't responding now.
And he been charging you.
Yeah. Hey.
A monthly premium.
Yeah, a monthly premium. Every month. You haven't taken that and locked that card, huh? Well, he needed. Nah, fuck that shit. Just like IUIC. Whenever Esau come down on him, you done change your name to Ben Israel. You know, you done did all these steps. You know, they got your social. They got everything that's a part of you. Hell, most of you niggas done went and got the damn facts on that shit. You know,
you're gonna see guys in high positions turning on the flock, telling on people, all type. It's gonna be a mess. It's gonna be the Lord gonna make it. It's a movie.
Yeah,
you know, the Lord is gonna make it dramatic.
And the Most High loves suspense.
Right. Yep. I'm gonna finish this out. This is John 10:14-15. It says, "I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and am known of mine. As the Father knoweth me, even so I know the Father, and I lay my life down for the sheep." All right, so that's the mentality. You know, we the Romans 12. You know, we're offering our bodies
as a living sacrifice.
As a living sacrifice,
yeah.
Understanding that there's a resurrection. The scriptures speak about Yahushua's resurrection for a reason. You know, it wasn't just, you know, because you did have guys on the scene. I was reading, I want to say it was 1 Timothy or 2 Timothy 1. All right, when it goes into how, you know, in the Old Testament, when that resurrection happened, when Yahushua died, you had guys teaching basically that was the resurrection that would happen in the last days. So you had Jake basically taking faith away from people, man, making people believe
that was it.
That was it.
That was it.
You know, and you're going to have people in these times today on that same shit, faithless. All right, but matter of fact, since I said that, let me go ahead and grab a couple precepts going into this, into the resurrection.
Okay.
This is Matthew chapter 20. Excuse me, I wanted John. This is John chapter 11. Let me see. In verse 24. Let me see if I need to start up a little bit. This is John 11:23, and this is going into Lazarus. All right, getting raised up when you go into this account. But verse 23, it says, Yahushua saith unto her, Thy brother shall rise again. Martha saith unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Okay, so there's a resurrection that's promised. Verse 25, it says, Yahushua saith unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. In verse 26, it says, And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believest thou this? You know, so there's a balance to this thing. Yes, we understand, all right, that some brothers are going to have to, you know, be a martyr for this thing
and catch an
L. But on the flip hand side of that, you're getting ready to demonstrate the resurrecting power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua.
Yeah, just like the 7 brothers and the mother. You know, though they were put down in that time, you know, they're going to reign with Yahweh Bashem Yahushua because they kept the faith. All right, just like in these times, you know, you have to go all the way to the end. You know, there's no stop. Oh, let me stop here and turn back. If you do that, that's your ass. All right. You know, what's that? A man that take his hand off the plow and look at the back is not worthy for the kingdom of heaven. Loosely paraphrasing.
Yep.
You know,
I can find that for you real quick.
You know, because like with this thing of ours, how about Shemiel Shai has set something so beautiful in motion. You know, all this is in flowing free motion. All right, and you can't stop, you know, prophecy just because you having a bad day. You know, but you
Con. I can't. I don't know what that is. I gotta find it.
Yeah. You call to wild.
Con. This is John chapter 15 and verse 13. It says, "Greater love have no man than this, that a man layeth down his life for his friends."
You know, and that's what Yahweh Bashem Shai did. He laid down his life to save the elect because all of their sins was nailed to the cross with him. Okay, you know that's why they're going to be those wearing those white robes because the sin that they are going through now has already been nailed to the cross with Hamashiach. But you got it.
Yep. That was the point on that. Let me see what else I had. Let me get that 2 Timothy 1.
Okay.
All right. Because again, man, there's an end goal. There's an end, that Yahweh Shem Shah has promised, for the elect. And that promise is immortality. Okay. Joint heirs with Yahweh Shah, which we can't really comprehend in the flesh. It's not, you can't compute, you can't calculate. You know what I'm saying? It's the type of thing, it's a faith thing. All right. That's why Hebrews 11:1, the evidence of things not, or the hope, the evidence of things hoped for. Matter of fact, gotta pull it now.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna misquote that one. Because that's what's gonna get us through. Faith. Hebrews 11:1, it says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And for by it, the elders obtained a good report, right? Abraham, because of Abraham's faith, all right, he became the father of many nations. All right, he became essentially the most important man, all right, in modern history, on planet Earth. And through the Spirit, Abraham is David. We believe through faith.
Abraham is David because David and Yahweh Shai always went 2 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like Adam and Abel. Yeah, Adam and Abel. They always went 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Isaac and Abraham, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Because those were the pivotal characters, in this story.
Yep.
All right, those spirits,
Batman and Robin.
Yep. Coming through to take over everything.
Yep. Exactly.
Right? And that's what leads to today, through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
And they were 2 and 2 all the way down.
Yep. You got something?
No. I was going to pull that Sirach. Sirach chapter 35. Start at verse 5, the points in verse 6.
It's Sirach chapter 35 and 5. It says, for all these things are done because of the commandment.
All these, everything that was said by Yahweh Shem Shai was done because of the commandments. All right. And the Most High's word is not going to go out void. Okay. So whenever a word goes out, it will accomplish that with what it needs to. Okay.
Yep. This is verse 6. It says, for the offering of the righteous maketh the altar fat, and the sweet savor thereof is before the Most High.
So that sweet savor, that delightful smell, that perfect aroma. If you're a chef, you'll understand what that means. All right. That means that the meal is ready. The meal is done. All right. But
verse 7, it says, the sacrifice of a just man is acceptable, and the memorial thereof shall never be forgotten.
So this is never going to be forgotten. This and what Yahweh Shem Shai did, him laying down his life for his friends or for his brethren, will never be forgotten.
Yep.
Just like in these times, he's coming back to redeem the elect. Okay, so whenever we die for his name's sake,
yep,
will never be forgotten either.
And if I may, that just man represents the elect.
Yep.
And we're not just through anything that we did.
Nope.
We're just through, like the brothers mentioned, that we're redeemed. That we're redeemed takes you straight to the blood, man.
Yep.
The blood of Yahweh Shah.
Because it's what he did.
Right.
And that's why all the sin was nailed to the cross, because he, put forth that effort.
Can I read this? It says Romans 8:30. It says, moreover, whom he did predestinate, them he also called, and whom he called, them he also justified, and whom he justified, them he also glorified.
Yeah. So he's going to glorify the elect.
Yep. As long as we continue on that path, strive for the truth unto death. as the scriptures say.
And if you believe that you're one of those, he's already wrote this in the story. So you're going to strive unto death, but Yahweh Shemi Shai has already wrote the victory for you.
Yep.
That's
it. Wait, well, Lord's willing, this lesson was edifying. Just wanted to touch on that real quick. Keep pushing, brothers. Keep praying. You know what I'm saying? Do the things, that work, that got us to this point, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemi Shai. But Lord's willing, this lesson was edifying. With that, we'll say shalom.
Shalom and shalom.